Welcome back to The Point. Got a great show for you guys today. As you know, I love me some media, and I also love public relations, and I'm telling you, all brands need to be doing it. Doesn't matter the size or the weight. 2020 has been one of these amazing years where the average Joes have been able to step into the spotlight. It's not the same people that you see every day. You're seeing more and more business owners sitting in front of a Skype or a Zoom or whatever insert streaming service talking to the media, whether it be regional or national. Your brand needs to be there. So today we have an amazing guest talking about PR. So let's welcome to our show today the wonderful Alison Graham. Alison, how are you today? We'll go to this camera. How are you today?
I'm good, and thank you for having me on your show.
Well, it's always good to have a PR expert on the show. So let's make this real simple. A lot of people always ask me, what is PR? What does that mean? And I know it has many definitions, but in 2020, it's probably one of the most important definitions. People kind of slept on public relations the last few years. Now, bigger brands, athletes, influencers, they understand the importance of having a PR person or publicist. They're basically one and the same. But a lot of other people don't understand it. Well, I could go do that. I can get on a podcast myself. I'm like, well, that's very true. But there's a lot more that comes to it. So break down like why businesses need PR, like the importance of even small businesses, the small onesie-twosie shops. You need PR. Can you explain to us how important PR is, especially here in 2020?
Well, like you said, public relations has a lot of definitions, but let's just start with the words, public and relations. I call myself a PR specialist, a public relations specialist. And what I do is take brands, companies, people, experts, and take that brand, their story, to the public. How do we get it to the public? We get it through media. What is media? TV, radio, print, online. And so I have a client, let's say my client is a corporation and they have a new product. They want to get the product out to the public without paid advertising. So they hire me, I tell their story, I reach out to the producers of television, radio hosts, journalists, editors, freelancers, online, blogs, and I say, you got to talk to this company. You got to hear about this product. And that's what we do. We get the stories out for our clients to the public. And then when that story is told by someone like you, a host, or in a magazine or print or TV, it's a third-party endorsement because it's not paid for. It's the media saying, this is an important story that we think the public needs to know about. Does that make sense?
It makes plenty of sense. I love it, but I just needed it broken down because a lot of people don't understand exactly why. They're like, oh, it's a press release. That's what I hear a lot. Oh, it's a press release. I'm like, no, it's a lot more than a press release. That's not, everybody would be in PR if your whole job was writing a press release and putting it in Cision or whatever platform you use and having it released onto the wire. That's not really, that's to me, that's not even real media. And I know that there's a lot of people, and that's our next topic here. And it's
but I agree with you about press releases. I think that press releases have a place in PR, but they don't get stories. A press release is not going to get you to bring a client on to your show. It's you saying, this is a story. It's you having a relationship with me writing to you, emailing you, texting you, getting something through Instagram and saying, hey, Eric, this is somebody who needs to be on your show and this is why. Yeah. And so.
Yeah. And the reason why I bring that up is because a lot of people have messaged to the point. And they know that my background is working in communications and media relations. We have a pretty good track record. I mean, I go on TV quite a bit talking about sports. So I get asked these questions. So one of them has been this thing that people have recently been taking press releases and dolling them up and calling them paid media, right? I'm in a publication and I go look and I'm like, send it to me so I can take a look. I don't even know what you're talking about. It's Yahoo Finance. And I'm like, oh, that's a press release. There's a big difference. That is not a publication. You cannot, there's no way to submit articles to Yahoo Finance. They don't have publishers. There's no guest contributors. This isn't Forbes or Entrepreneur. So there's a lot of people doing that. And then there's been this new one where it's like insert TV show. If you give us so much money, we're going to do a segment on this show with this network.
Right.
When you know the producer of that show, you're like, hey, you guys are doing this? When did you guys start doing this? They're like, we're not doing that. There's a lot of that going on. So how do folks go through and sort through the weeds in our very crowded space? There's traditional PR folks like you and several others who understand new school and old school. I say traditional, I'm meaning you don't need to do those flashy videos that we see on Instagram where somebody's, walking by a car that's probably not theirs saying, I could get you on TV tomorrow. I could get you in, We all know them and we cringe. If you've worked in media for 5 seconds, to tell anybody that you guarantee they could be on TV tomorrow, you must have a fancy last name that starts with a T and ends with a P, because that's the only person I know that could get guaranteed TV time. The rest of us aren't getting on there. So how do people sort through those, I don't know, I want to sound like my grandmother, those carnival people, those carnies, slinging carny juice to your side of the house? How do you get folks to understand when they get to sort through the weeds, what are some red flags and what are things they should look for when they want to work with somebody like you to get, help get media exposure?
So most PR specialists, which I think is different from a publicist, because I see publicists as mostly people that represent celebrities. They're walking the red carpet. I don't work with celebrities, although I love them. That's not what I do. I work with people, brands, corporations, nonprofits, from small to big, national and international. And they hire me on a retainer. So publicists and PR specialists, public relations specialists, usually are hired with a monthly retainer. And depending on the company or the person, that could be a 3-month minimum, a 6-month minimum, a 12-month minimum, whatever. They pay me to get them media, and there should be no other expense there. So if they have a PR rep that's saying, oh, in order to get you on this TV show, you have to pay an extra this, then that's a scam. Because they're hiring the specialist who has contacts with the producers, with the bloggers, with the freelance writers, with the radio producers, all of those. I have those contacts, and I'm getting paid to tell their story, to get them national media if they want national media, local media if they want local media. If they only want a radio campaign, that's what I'm working on. And they pay me according to the contract that we come up and the program that's specialized to their needs for that campaign. And there are no other fees added to that. So if they're looking to get on a TV show and they're paying to get on that TV show, then that's paid media. That's not public relations.
Yeah, and that makes sense. So before you go, because we're kind of running short here on time.
Oh.
I know,
wow,
but no, I
like
tell
that.
you, it flies by, doesn't it? I mean,
It really
I tell
does.
everybody before folks, if you're ever interviewed on this show, I start off every interview the same way. I'm like, look, we're going to go for this amount of time, and it flies by. Nobody ever believes me, but it does. I mean, you're in media, you know how fast this goes by. TV's the same way. I laugh because people are like, you're preparing for TV? Like, I prepare like 2 hours before I go on, like for like national appearances. And they're like, wow. And I'm like, yeah, because that 4 minutes, 25. It feels like an eternity in front of the camera because there's all that setup. There's somebody in your ear. You're perfecting your shot. You've got your last minute notes. You're sweating bullets. It's a little different. But even at this level, it's a lot. And it shoots by as we talk. But don't worry, you're getting your time back from me taking this long time to talk about myself. But I'm
going to interrupt you because that's what I do. I mean, I have clients that will do a 5-minute interview and they say only 5 minutes, and I tell them that's a lot of time. Think about messaging in a commercial, which is 30 seconds or a minute.
Yeah, go see
Yeah.
and how much they pay for that ad run. I tell people that all the time. Network TV, if you are on at the start of the news day, before the stock market opens, and you're on anytime after, until about midnight, and even during COVID that's changed, think about that ad space. Look at the people running ads during your appearance and tell me you're not on valuable time. You're just sitting there talking, and I always tell people that, folks, if you're watching and you're like, what's media like? It's this. There's so much more when you peel back. There's talking points that need to be done. The way that you look before you get on camera, being prepared, understanding you know what to do, and communicating with somebody you're never probably going to meet that's in your ear going, okay, you're on in 2 minutes, and on, you got about 3.5 minutes to talk. And you may be like, 3.5 minutes? Number one, that's an eternity. Number two, it's fast. It's like, and you're answering questions because you want to get your talking points out, because you want to get your message across. And I think that's so funny when people in our world don't understand. And I've had folks, what do you mean it's only 7 minutes? I'm like,
that's an eternity.
I'm like, you should be happy. I'm like, I put celebrities on and they get 3.5 and they're like, high five. I mean, but that's just the difference, right? Some people are happy with anything. They're like, I mean, I have somebody who's going on tomorrow morning and they're like, dude, I don't care. Like, he's like, it's early, but who cares? It's national TV after a debate. I'm showing up. If you're the first network morning news show and you're on it, I don't think you care. You're like, give me 3 minutes. I'll take my 3. But anyways, that's not my point. One thing that I did want to bring up before you go, and it's something that we love to talk about here, is we love female entrepreneurs and female CEOs. I'm partial to it because my wife is the CEO of the agency we created. She is our co-founder and CEO. A lot of the folks that we work with, even our producer here on the show, the great Jordan Gelber, runs her own company, production company as a CEO. So what got you into doing that? We have a lot of younger, it sounds so weird when I say it, but I mean, I'm a father of girls, so I say this. Right. We have a lot of young women who tune into our show and watch us. Obviously, the co-creator of this show is my 16-year-old daughter. So we always have a message when we have amazing female entrepreneurs on. So what got you in to PR, and what's it like being a female CEO running your company?
So I got into PR by accident, actually, but I don't need to go back that far. I worked with a smaller boutique PR firm that had a lifestyle and an entertainment section. And I first started in entertainment, but then I had a baby. And I wanted to be home by 6 p.m. and not out at movies and doing red carpets with celebrities. I wanted to be home with my baby. So I moved to the lifestyle section. And then as my baby started to get bigger and bigger, I wanted to have control of my hours. So I left the boutique firm with their blessing, and I started my own company, AJGPR, which are my initials, Alison Joanne Graham PR. And it really didn't occur to me that I was a female entrepreneur until somebody told me that. It didn't occur to me that my starting a company on my own was any different than anybody else. But one day someone said, you're an entrepreneur. And I thought about it and I was like, yeah, you're right. I am. And I'm the CEO of this company, the CFO of this company, the COO, and the head plumber, the head electrician. I have an office out of my house. And I just couldn't be happier. I really couldn't be happier because as an entrepreneur, female aside, I get to work with clients that I want to work with. Nobody is telling me who I have to work with to pay the overhead. So I don't know. I think that it's really powerful to have your own company, to be an entrepreneur. And then being female on top of it just is who I am. I happen to be a woman. And am I treated differently because I'm a woman publicist, PR rep? I think more women come to me as clients than men do. And I'm not sure if that's because I'm a woman or just because of the kind of clients I handle. I've had male clients, but I would say that I don't specialize in female clients, but they tend to be the ones that pick up the phone and call me.
But that's a good thing then. That's a beautiful thing. I mean, I know for us as an agency, when we were talking about doing PR, that's a focus that my wife really had, was how do we get women, because I mean, one of my passions is being a veteran advocate, obviously being a veteran, but for our team, it's really big, and we really support. I sit on a board called Final Salute Inc., which helps get homeless women veterans off the street. So we're always pushing that.
Right.
I don't hide my love for veterans on this show, as a show that understands that veteran causes aren't just in May, nor just in November. Like so many of our friends in mainstream media, they seem to be confused by that. So I'm happy to have a show going into November that I've been putting veterans on once a week or more all the time. So anyways, I get that. So
are we wrapping up because are we wrapping up because
we're good, keep going, you're good, we got time.
One thing that really hit me, being a female entrepreneur, and working out of my house, and you have kids, so that, kids, they play. And one time I overheard my daughter, she was, I don't know, 6 or 7, and she was in her room with another friend, and they must have been playing business, because my daughter was on a pretend phone, and she said to her friend, "Just a minute, I'm on with a client." And I thought, how wonderful is that she's imitating me, that her mom is a business person and my daughter is imitating that. Now, there are lots of moms that are stay-at-home moms, and that's great too. I'm not saying that that's not great, but she's seeing me in this entrepreneurial role. And I think that was also a moment where it hit me that mom works.
That's awesome. And I think that's important. I mean, we all have role models. My mom was my role model. Still to this day, I look at what my mom built and what she did, and I think it's kind of passed on in my genes. And then I see my beautiful daughters doing the same thing. So I think that's important that our kids know we work. I think my kids never knew really what I did, but now that they're forced to be in the same house with me all the time, and literally my studio and my office are side by side, but on the other side is my son's wall, 13-year-old. So it's interesting. At least I always know he's doing schoolwork, because he can't get away without doing it, because I can hear him asking questions, but he also hears who I talk to, has conversations, to the point where we had to go tell him, hey, by the way, do you need to sign an NDA? Because you're not supposed to share anything you hear on the other side of this wall, because sometimes they're conversations. And basically, it's things that you don't think about when you have kids, and you're like, I work at home and I do talk about things out loud, especially working in the media. You hear and see there's a lot of things, and you're like, I should probably not say it as loud as I used to, because normally there was nobody around me when I was in the office. But
yes, well, my daughter has become my PR rep.
Wow.
She's constantly plugging me. She was at a hair salon several months ago getting her hair done, and the owner of the salon was talking on the phone about hiring a PR rep. And when he got off the phone, my daughter said, my mom's a PR rep. And the next day I got a phone call and we started talking, and he's now a client.
There you go. See, that's awesome. So before you go, I got a whole bunch of screens going on here. Before you go, tell us how folks, speaking of being your own PR rep, this is where you get to plug yourself. So before you go, tell folks, if they want more information, where they can find you and how they do that.
So I'm based in Los Angeles, but I do PR all the way across the United States and internationally. And I can be found at www.ajgpr. That's me, Alison Joanne Graham PR, AJG PR, and that's how they can find me. Or I have a AJG PR Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. All that.
You're everywhere. I love it. And we'll have them all below. So if you're watching this on YouTube, C-Suite, or Facebook, all the links will be included in there, so you can connect with Alison after you watch our show. So thank you so much. And Alison, I want to thank you so much for joining us. It's always good to talk to somebody else in the media, and it's almost like a counseling session that we get to have. So it's always good to have. We'll have to have you back to talk more media, and I'm sure folks will have some questions from the show they'll probably want to send your way. So we look forward to having you back. I would love that,
and it was really fun. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your week.
You too.
And
bye.
We'll be right back after these messages.